Welcome back to the United Stand. Please hit that like button, get yourself sharing this, get the subscribe button hit as well, and turn on that bell notification button. Big updates this evening. The end of Casemiro at Manchester United has been revealed, and the targets to come in as his replacement, Elliot Anderson, reportedly topping that list. We also know the big desire of Carlos Baleba as well. But I think this shows a clear plan of action for Manchester United's future, the areas of focus for the club in terms of improving this squad further. Could there be something magical happening this January? We're going to touch on that as well as a big update today on Semenyo as well from Ben Jacobs earlier on this show. I'm going to be giving you my views and opinions on that. Obviously, I can't wait to hear yours. Yours are more important than mine. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. I want to know what you think and what you feel about all of these. Played my last show of the week before the weekend. So I also want to get your take on the game against Everton as well. How do you think we're going to get on? But we'll be touching on all of that later in the show. A hello to United Forever, watching from New Zealand. Big up yourself. Now people are saying the volume's too low. Yesterday it was too high and I've not changed the settings. Let me put it up a little bit higher for you guys and hopefully that will improve a little more. Honestly, OBS, it can't even be OBS because it's the same as it was yesterday. Now I've got to put it up higher. So hopefully that's a little better now. Howdy, Mr. Miracle. Hope you're well. No disrespect to Terry or Beth. I miss Goldbush. Of course you do. It's his channel. It'd be weird to watch the United Stand and to prefer other people on a consistent level. That would make absolutely no sense. Mate, is it loud enough now? Fair enough. Look, I can only go what some people... Maybe clean your ears out, people, is more of a bigger question. Thank you, Carl, for your super chat. You haven't said anything, but thank you for the super chat anyway. I appreciate it. Chris, I see you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, my friend. Now, I want to start with what's the biggest story of today. And Casemiro. So according to Paul... It's Paul, isn't it? Paul Hurst of The Times. And if you're not from the UK, you probably would. You have to know what The Times is. But The Times is one of the most credible and reputable news outlets in the UK. And he has stated that Casemiro is expected to depart Manchester United this summer. The club is unlikely to activate the one-year extension in his contract, while Saudi Arabian teams are prepared to offer him a more lucrative deal. Now, Casemiro right now is playing very well for us. And when I say very well, I think he's playing very well based on the limitations he has to his game and at his age. Based on what we saw last season, the age he's at, the stage of his career that he's at, he's playing well. Now, on a broader sense, we need better than Casemiro. I think that's absolutely fair. I think that, has he been valued for money since he came in? I think by and large, yes. If we hadn't have had a manager in Ten Hag that for about 18 months played with what I referred to back then as Eric's Island, where it isolated the midfield to a point where Baleba and or Kante would have looked lost in the middle with no support around them, I think we'd be having a very different conversation. That first year of Casemiro joining, that first 6 months especially, where he played with Eriksen, were very good. Overall, though, the club needs midfielders with more energy, more power, more ability to cover ground, and better technical ability on the ball, a better passing range on the ball. These things are absolutely imperative, in my opinion, on every single level. So I'm not sad to see this news. I think it's so important to our plan moving forward that this happens. There's a super chat here from Rory who says, right now in January, do you think getting in a left wing back is more important than a CM? For me, Cass is doing fine whilst there is nothing coming from the left wing backs. And do you know what? We're going to come back to that in a few moments. Don't everyone remember that super chat. I'm going to come back to it in a minute because I think we spoke about this a lot last night and I want to touch on it again. What's also been stated today by Craig Hope is that Elliot Anderson is going to be a big target of Manchester United. Man City will be looking at him. Clubs in Spain will be looking at him. And although it says here, although Anderson's heart would bring him back to Newcastle in a beat, there is a feeling that he will have his pick of clubs at home and abroad come the summer. So this is a player very high on the list of individuals to replace Casemiro at Manchester United. And barring ground duel win rates, every other facet of Elliot Anderson's game at this stage of both their careers is superior. Pass completion, forward passes, ball carrying, key opportunities created, progressive passes. And Man United need to improve in a central midfield area on all those fronts. So I love this link, and this link is brilliant. Now, to the super chat that came in from Rory, what do I think is more important? Improving the midfield is more important to me. I feel that there is no team that becomes Premier League champions, no team that can win and consistently challenge for the Champions League. No team has ever done that without having a top-class midfield. So we need to improve on it. There is no doubt. But your question is worded in a very interesting way, and I'm not saying it's a trick question, and I'm not saying it's being worded poorly or badly, but it's worded in a way of right now. And what I've said all along, if we can land one of our main central midfield targets, so for instance, let's just say United were able to do a deal with Marinakis and we could get Elliot Anderson, or United could do a deal with Brighton, and we'll get onto this in a moment, for Baleba, and it just ends any opportunity of a Manchester City or a Liverpool or a Real Madrid getting that target, because I think it's the most important area of the pitch for us to fix in the coming years, I would do it. But if, for instance, and I'm just going to use Anderson as the example and Baleba, if Baleba and Anderson say to Man United, listen, our current clubs won't let us go, but we're going to join in the summer, then I look at it and go, well, let's not buy a makeshift midfielder. We're getting those two in the summer, and they've guaranteed it. They've given us a pre-agreement. Let's go and get that left wing back, or let's go and add another attacker that can cover in that position, like a Semenyo. So I totally get, 100% get where you're coming from. For me, it's about ensuring whatever we do in January, I would like the club to make sure it doesn't impact or damage our ability to land the right types of players in the summer month. You know, sometimes cheap is expensive. Bringing in a cheaper, much lesser option now, just to sort of appease fans short term, can be far more expensive and damaging in the longer terms. I think it's really, really important to remember that when looking at those situations and those scenarios. That's my view anyway. So yeah, on that one. But look, on Casemiro, I'm going to try and read some of your comments on it now if it's come in. I look at this and go, it's the right thing. I also feel, and I've been critical at times of Ineos with mistakes they've made, keeping Ten Hag being one of them. The Dan Ashworth scenario is another. But even in the summer, I was actually happy with the business, but I thought the speed of new players coming in had to be better than we did. How much better would it have been if Lemaines and Šeško would have both had a pretty much full pre-season with us? Again, we could have 4 or 5 extra points by now, be in a much stronger position than we find ourselves in. So there's always been areas to criticise. What I like, though, is that we're not taking the easy option. Yes, we could extend Casemiro for another year, but I think it's a risk. You might not get this level of performance next year. It might go backwards. It's 300 to 350,000 pound a week. That's a salary of two new top class players. That literally could cover what you would pay Semenyo and Baleba, Anderson and Baleba. You could split that and go and get 2 players that improve the team and the squad at the same time. And I think Ineos, I think Wilcock, I think Barada, and the manager, of course, involved, that is the correct decision, irrespective of how much... Cas could be brilliant for the rest of the season, could help us get back into the Champions League, help us win another domestic trophy. But I still think it's time to move on from him. I do feel the same, by and large, about the likes of Maguire, the likes of Luke Shaw. There are certain players, all for different reasons, injury problems, quality, age, that we just need to move on from, that we just need to either cash in on if we're offered the right kind of money, or move on from and invest that salary into fresher, stronger, better, more powerful players to improve this squad. So overall, I completely agree with this train of thought. Daniel here says, it's a good point, Terry. I'd love to do something in January, but sometimes waiting might be the best option. Hopefully some good opportunities arise in January, though. I'll give you an example of that. Me and all my brothers, when we turned 13, we all got the same present. And we all got it because my eldest brother got the present and we wanted it. First thing we got, it's actually in front of me right now, actually, because it was in a bag that I found the other day. We all got like a ring. And this is the ring that I got on my 13th birthday. It's been extended and it's stretched out since it actually still fits on. It fits on my pinky finger now. And that's after me having it like expanded and made bigger. But we got a ring. I don't know why, but my big brother wanted one. So we all ended up getting one. We also got, and it's a lot of money now, but it was a lot of money 20 odd years ago. More than 20 years ago. How many years ago was 13 years ago from now? 27 years ago. Jesus Christ, I'm that old. 27 years ago. £100. We got £100 cash. And it was the first birthday any of us had ever had where our parents gave us actual cash. It was always a present. Parents from relatives, but that. Plus money from other people. And my brother wanted it so we could go out at 13 and go to the sports shops, the clothing shops himself and buy his own clothes. And he went out at the time and bought some tracksuits, some hats, some trainers. And I remember being a couple of years younger than him and being really jealous that he got all this new clothes. And I was like, oh, look at them clothes. I messed up though. No, I didn't. I did the right thing on my birthday. My younger brother messed up. So you even forget your own stories if you're not careful. When he turned 13, it was a year after me. He messed up. But the reason he messed up was because of me. I kind of goaded him into this a little bit, which is why it's a relevant story. So we wanted to go to Walthamstow, to go to Selborne Walk, which was a shopping centre there, where they had JDs and really good sports shops. My mum couldn't take us, or we couldn't get there. And she said, oh, we'll go at the weekend. And he'd already got the money on like the Tuesday was his birthday. It was like the Thursday. And he said, my mum said you have to wait until the Saturday. And I went, let's not do that. Let's walk, take your money and we'll walk down to Baker's Arms in Leytonstone, where there was a shop. And I forget the name of there was a sports clothing shop in Lea Bridge Road, Baker's Arms, and a sports goods store in Lea Bridge Road, Leyton. I can't remember what it was called now. It's going to annoy me if I don't remember what it was called. Anyway, it was called something. It might even be a JD Sports now, but it was called something. There might be someone that remembers. And anyway, they sold some okay stuff in there. Now, it wasn't JJB or anything like that, right? It wasn't any of those things. It was like a local one, right? And there's a point to this. And Mike, you can say this is boring, but it's relevant, okay? And we went down to the shop and they said they had some okay clothes in there, but it weren't top notch, top of the range. But I just encouraged my brother, no, just get this is fine. And he spent all the money on stuff that just wasn't that good. But once you spent it, it was gone. And we took it home. My big brother laughed at the clothes he bought, basically said they're sort of out of fashion already. My mum and dad went crazy because that was under £1 just wasted straight away. And from my point of view, and from my perspective, it was a lesson. Now, it wasn't a lesson that hurt me because it weren't my money, but I learned from it. And sometimes to wait is better. Don't rush things, because once the money's gone, the money's gone. And it's hard to recoup it. It's hard to get it back in a football context. And me and my brother messed up that day massively. And even 2 pieces of clothing he bought were almost too small for him already. So 3 months later, he was having to give it to my other brother, my younger brother, because it didn't even fit him anymore. So that's what I don't want Man United Football Club behaving in that same way. If we can buy in January, but they're not adequate, they're not of the level, then don't do it. Now, what you'll get is a lot of TikTokers and a lot of bang average content creators that won't think like that. Even though they'll agree with me in reality, they'll say, no, nonsense, buy someone, because they just want to moan, they just want to scream, they just want to be negative all the time. Where sometimes it's better to wait. So yeah, great super chat and great question as well. What is this guy talking about? Look, if you don't understand the message that I'm saying, what you wait for it to re-upload and download it, and you can run it through Chat GTP and say, can you explain this to me in nursery rhyme format? It will rewrite a nursery rhyme, and then maybe you'll understand it. So there we go. But yeah, I wouldn't rush. I want the right players at the right time, not just any old body through the door. It's as simple as that for me. So what you were saying is stick to what you've got until the end of the season. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you can get the right quality of player in January, spend the money. But don't waste your money on someone that's not good enough just to appease moaning, whinging, whining fans in the short term. Because those football fans don't know how to run football clubs. Those football fans don't have any idea. They're the same kind of people that probably still give their money to the Glazers and then moan about the Glazers. Don't listen to them. They are silly sausages. Let's not give any contract extensions to Casemiro or Harry Maguire, neither Shaw. No, I agree with you. And do you know what? Sometimes with Luke Shaw, Maguire and Cass, you can get suckered in, can't you? You can get suckered into this element of not even nostalgia. You can have this moment, I call it drunken euphoria, where it's like you get a little drunk because of a goal they score or a good couple of performances. And it's a bit like beer goggles. It's a bit like putting your beer goggles on a Friday night. Suddenly, you know, she starts to look a little more beautiful. She's a little more interesting, a little bit more funny, a little bit more attractive than you thought before the beer goggles were put on. And before you know it, you can be in lumber. You can be in lumber because you've given a contract extension and you can't get out of it. And Christmas is coming soon and you've got to buy presents and everything. And for me, that's what you don't want to be doing with some of these players. You want to move on from them. You want to be investing in better quality players. Can you imagine this summer if we went, okay, Garnacho, okay, Rashford, okay, Anthony, have another go? I don't think Rashford would be doing at United what he's doing at Barca. Anthony would have flopped again. Garnacho wouldn't be doing what Mbeumo's doing for us. So for me, yes, cheap is expensive. Always remember that. What would you do with Šeško, Mbeumo and Cunha if Semenyo came in? Competition for places. All of those players, barring Šeško, can play multiple roles. It gives us a great contrast. It gives us great options. It gives us a brilliant player coming on from the bench. There is wing-back roles that Semenyo can play in certain games against certain teams. For me, it is the perfect problem to have, and one that wouldn't stress me. I'm also someone that rejects the notion of pathways, because if you're good enough, you're going to force yourself into the team. If you're not good enough for that manager, of that club, the way that you're trying to play, then you won't. By and large, you're not good enough. There'll be some anomalies and some exceptions, but I don't believe in this pathway stuff. When you get your chance, take it. Be good enough. Well up for that. Could Semenyo play up top? He can play as well. Yeah, I agree with Ollie here. There's more tools in the shed. Absolutely. What type of player should we get in January from your perspective, whether short-term or long-term? Well, I think I think at the moment we need to be investing our money into medium to long-term options. Players that we see a real future for over the next 3 to 6 years. I wouldn't be doing any short-term fixes. So João Gomez is a player that's on there as one that might come in, but I'm only happy for that to happen if he's viewed as someone in the same ballpark as Waltons, etc. This here from Rory, he also says here with a super chat, he says, buy plan B now or wait till the summer for plan A. If we wait for plan A, we might not get into Europe, financially hit, plus less attractive. It's a gamble. Yeah, look, I think it depends on the difference in quality between plan A and plan B. So if your plan A and plan B are very, very close in quality, then a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. In many people's eyes. It's whether that drop down in quality is massive. It's whether that drop down in quality is Mbeumo or Garnacho. It's whether that drop down in quality is... let's just say, for instance, you can bring in somebody who, midfielder of the level of Norgard, or you could bring in somebody the level of Baleba. So for me, it depends on the. Again, I need all the variables before I can do the equation. So it really does depend on the difference. Now, would I be prepared if Plan A is not available, but we can pivot to a different A? We can get a Plan A player as a winger or as a forward or as a wing back, and then get the Plan A midfielder in the summer. I'd rather do that than get a Plan B midfielder now, personally, because I am still thinking more about the long-term build of the squad. And I think Manchester United in recent years have rushed the signing of players, because I don't know necessarily if Freds and Maguires are really what we wanted. Alexis Sanchez's, were they what we wanted? Or were they more, or City are going to buy them, we should sweep in now? Have we sometimes been rejected by a few players and then gone for silly alternatives and not actually continue to head in the right direction? Have we pivoted to a completely wrong type of player, but they're a big name, they sell shirts? We've got to avoid all that type of behaviour Manchester United do, because we've been stung by it many, many times. This here is from Emily. Thank you, Emily, for tuning in as well, or as ever. Thank you, Emily Derry. He says, the better competition within the squad, the better quality on the pitch. Back under Sir Alex Ferguson and at clubs like Barca, Chelsea and Bayern, we all name the bench players that walk into most decent starting teams. I agree. I'm just not someone that believes, even for young players, like if you're good enough, you're going to get chances. Now, if you're not good enough for this team, if you're not good enough for this system, then you may come a cropper. And that may bother us because sometimes you can be very talented but not suited to what's needed. The only player that stands out as kind of an exception to this rule for me is Manu. I'm disappointed Manu's not been given enough chances and enough opportunities yet. That being said, when he gets his chance, he's got to take it with both hands and he's got to be better than our two current midfielders. Not just a nice drop of the shoulder here and a step over there and a good bit of skill. He's got to be better, and that's got to be provable with data. Look, he lost possession less, broke the lines more, created more, duel rate was better, dribble pass less. Like, I want to see those numbers. I think he can do it, but he has to deliver. You have to raise the level. You've got to do that for me. My top midfield targets are Anderson, Baleba, Wharton and Stiller. I think we could try... Sorry, the screen moved there. Try and get Stiller in January, as he's be a great addition to get 2 of the 3 in the summer in January. That'll be difficult. Yeah, that will be very, very difficult. I agree with you on that. That all being said as well, you may have watched the show earlier. If you haven't, go and watch it after you're done here. But it was a really interesting update from Ben Jacobs, who's talking about Carlos Baleba. And for me, though, this is also why I think rushing into trying to sign too many central midfielders in January could damage us. I think Baleba's fantastic. I think Baleba's going to kill it at Manchester United. But I'll read you out this update from him. And he said, and I quote, Carlos Baleba wants Man United. And personally, I think it would be a big surprise if two clubs, one Man United and one a rival agree a fee with Brighton. That doesn't make sense the way that's been typed. It says, I think it would be unlikely that Carlos Baleba would pick another club over Manchester United. And I trust Ben Jacobs with this story. And I think Carlos Baleba has already picked Man United. I think we're the club he wants to join. I think that's going to happen next summer. So again, we've had a lot of questions tonight. What would you do in terms of buying a plan B? There's very few midfielders I'd rather have over Baleba. Alongside Baleba, additional to Baleba, but not instead of. I really want this young man at the club, so I would be prepared to wait. I love this update from Ben. I think it's powerful that the player picked us in the summer, hasn't changed his mind. He sees us improving. He wants to be part of that. And for me personally, that is massive. Absolutely massive in that regard as well. I really do think it is. I think it's huge. But I think that might have been mistyped by the aggregator here, because I want to research that again. Because when I read that out loud, maybe it was my dyslexic brain kicking in. I want to see if it was me. Bright midfielder has told... Oh, that's old. Has that come out today? Why has nobody else shared that today? But anyway, Carlos Baleba wants Man United, and I think that's massive. By the way, there's just been another update that's been shared. I'm going to read it to you. This is not about Baleba. This is about Semenyo. It says here that Man United are prepared to make mid-season additions. United are more curious... What's this word? More aware, cautious, is what it says. My brains weren't working. More cautious than Liverpool of their PSR position, but it's not to say January additions are ruled out. United will make a decision whether Mbumo's arrival makes them less inclined to bid for Semenyo. The former will leave for AFCON as well as Amad Diallo, potentially convincing United to bring in another winger should the right target be presented. Now, of course, Fabrizio Romano about an hour ago said that Liverpool are seriously interested in Sadio Mane. I see Sadio Mane's face on my screen, in Semenyo. But it's an interesting one. See, and I think the way this is worded by Ben is very interesting, because United, I think, are interested. But of course, if, for instance, there is, from my point of view and perspective, if Liverpool are leading that race, Man United are going to distance themselves from that anyway. That's what clubs do. It's the way clubs behave. I understand it. I don't necessarily agree, but it's what they do. But I'd love us to go and get Semenyo. I think he'd be absolutely fantastic on every single level. And what I'm loving is the kind of players we're linked to at the moment. And some will say maybe they're a little bit obvious, but I look at them and just say brilliant, brilliant talents. I look at it and think Andersons, Whartons, Stillers, Gomez's, Semenyos. I'm looking at all of these players and I'm seeing very high technical floors, great physical presence. I'm loving it. I don't know about you. I'd love to get your opinions on that. Michael here says, good afternoon, Terry from Alberta, Canada. Thank you for tuning in, Michael. Appreciate that massively. Ratchet here says, I fancy Stiller over anyone in the summer. Thoughts? Well, I spoke about this before, and the one thing I'll never do is pretend to be this encyclopedia on football. I've read good things about Stiller, but I don't watch him play like I do Anderson, like I do Baleba. So I'm biased in the sense that I don't know as much about him as I do the others. What is it? I'm going to throw the question back at you, though. So I've answered it, but I'm going to throw the question back. What is it that Stiller brings that is above Anderson, above Wharton, above Baleba, that makes him your number one choice before any other midfield player? Break that down for us, please, Ratchet. Let me understand that. Educate me on that one, please. Buying players for commercial revenue is dumb. If you're successful on the pitch and winning trophies, revenue will be generated naturally as individuals will be highlighted for the success. Yeah, look, Man United have bought stars in the past, there's no doubt. But I think what we've often done is bought the potential stars and turn them into megastars. And that's what I would prefer to do, as opposed to buying a 31-year-old star who's on his way down from the top, thinking he's going to... Now, again, if we were a team that... let's say we fast forward 4 years. We've won the Premier League once in that time. We've got to a Champions League final, won a couple of FA Cups and League Cups. But, and there's a 31-year-old striker, a 32-year-old striker, going to leave Barcelona. This is a hypothetical person. He's going to leave Barca, still scoring well. And we go, look, we can get him on a short-term deal. And it's enough to get us over the line to win another Premier League or a Champions League. I'm all for that. But I feel that we're not in that position at all. We're still trying to build something that has the abilities to compete at that level. Adding like a superstar to that mix isn't always a great task. It isn't always a task that is undertaken that ends well. Some people that you'll meet in your life are the people you'll meet when you've achieved your goals, when you've sort of found, when your business is booming, when your life looks amazing. There are other people in your life that you'll find at the beginning that are going to buy into what you're doing and are there the whole way through. And I think football players are sometimes like that. Some players are better for you in your club when you're at the top, when you're killing it, when you're firing on all cylinders and you want to add some stardust. Where I think other players you need at the beginning to help build the foundations to get to that level. And I think it's about getting that balance absolutely right. Let's have a look at some more of your comments here. Emily says, Stella reminds me of Carrick. Good vision and a technical passer in a deeper lying role. That's what I've read about him, and I want to spend a bit of time when I can this season. It's just a matter of time, really, watching him a little bit more. But that's what I've read about him in a number of places, is that kind of ability on the ball. Terry, look at the stats. The season, Stella is better than Wharton, Anderson and Baleba. So what stats are we looking at here? And what sites are you looking at? Because let's be fair, there's multiple different websites. And what I find people doing, they do stat analysis. I'm not saying you're doing this, but people will often find the one that gives the best results for their player. And then they will ignore other sites that maybe don't give you the same outcome. If I use Data MB and I put this in, Yeah, very good. I'm putting in Wharton. Baleba's actually a really bad this season compared to last year on Data MB. And who's the other guy you mentioned? Who's the other guy? Anderson. It's not. I already know because I looked at Anderson earlier on today. He's not going to have better stats than Anderson on this website. But that doesn't mean he's not better overall. So it's very, very similar. Now, Stiller's comes out amazing. Stiller's numbers on this website come out amazing. But then this is, Pete, where I am asking a question. I'm not making a statement. So nobody get their knickers twisted. Nobody get their pants in a twist. Are we factoring in the difference in the league they're playing in? Do we think all is fair in that comparison? You may think it is. You may go, yep, I think Germany is on par with the Premier League. Some people might go, actually, I'd shrink the numbers slightly coming to... You know, for instance, Wirtz. Look at Wirtz in Germany versus Wirtz so far in the Premier League. Could Stiller come to the Premier League and have a start slow and never improve? Could he come to the Premier League, have a slow start and get to these levels that here? Could he come in and start at these levels? These are all questions I'm asking because I don't know enough about the player. So they're not challenges as much as they are me asking to be educated on this. And whatever your answer is, I'm going to take it at face value, but I would love an explanation as to why you think it would work. And I know some people don't like the phrase Prem proven because players can move from one Prem club to another and not show the same qualities. I've seen that, especially when you go to a United with the pressures that playing for the biggest club in the country brings. But I always feel a player in his early mid-20s moving, for instance, from Nottingham to Manchester, and where he lives in Nottingham might mean he doesn't even need to move home. He's played in the UK his whole life. There is often less chance of failure than a young player emigrating, changing countries, culture, climate, league, all at the same time. I think that often plays a part. Let's look at some more of your comments that have come through here. Mamouche and Ekatike hit the ground running immediately. That's a fair challenge, but my question isn't name me players that have done it. We can all do that. Michael Ballack is another example. I want to know why Stiller is going to be Ekatike, Mamouche, and not Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. Not because I think he is, but again, if you're telling me he's the number one choice, you should be able to break that down to me, right? Let's have a conversation. This is not me trying to catch anybody out. No got your moments. Let's have a conversation here. Hi, Terry. I like the look of Jan Diamande, 19-year-old Ivorian winger at Leipzig, 5 to 6 GA in his last 3 games. Good progressive dribbler. A good future pickup if Vavell pulls the strings once he develops. Excuse me. Very rude. I'm very sorry. Yeah, so I'll take a look. I'll take a look, my friend. Again, I think I know the name. I heard of a few Diamandes. I'll go and have a look. Stiller's spelt with ER, right? Or is it an A? I think it's an ER. Passing sets the front three on fire. Good point. This here from Hindo, who says Stiller is not going to depose Bruno however much we want it. Yeah, but Bruno might leave organically in the summer. And that's also it's a separate conversation, but he could also leave. Personally, I believe Baleba and Stiller would be a better partnership. Again, explain why. I'd love to know why. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just love to be educated on that. Squash here says Stiller and Anderson are top. Wharton and Baleba are more average and less complete. Stiller and Anderson are the most complete. I agree with you, and you see that in their numbers. You see that in their numbers because Baleba and Wharton specialise in certain areas of midfield where Stiller and Anderson are very similar. So I don't think it'll be Anderson and Stiller. I think it could be one of those two, and then either a Baleba or a Wharton. But I think if you're bringing in a Wharton... Sorry, I think if you're bringing in an Anderson or a Stiller, you don't need a Wharton to be your DM because those two can give you that passing range. I think you go for Baleba that gives you a different type of energy in that midfield. Plus, you've got Mainu, who I think can actually develop into more of a deep line playmaker anyway, personally. I think he could do that job excellently because the forward passing and the key passing from him is already a really strong area. So he's already in our team. If you look at him last year, his kind of key passes, forward passes, etc., are on par with Stiller's, on par with what Anderson's doing this year. So you've already got a player that does that. So if you went and got Baleba and you went and got Stiller or Anderson, Mainoo's already at the club. You've got Kone coming up the ranks. And by the way, next year, when people say that Bruno won't be out of the team, are we forgetting something? That if we are successful this year and get back into Europe, it's not about deposing Bruno. You'll have the chance to, the real chance to, because there'll be 2 games a week. And that's one of the reasons, probably the biggest reason we're not seeing more of Mainoo, we're not seeing more of Xerxes, is because we're playing 1 game a week. And that's why, again, my advice to some of these players is, look, I know you're getting frustrated because you want to be in the first team now. The World Cup's coming up. I get it. But don't be too hasty. When you get your chance, take it. When you get your chance, deliver. Be the best player on the pitch. Be so standout that you can't not get picked in the next game, or you can't not get more minutes in the next game. But if Man United are successful and you help us be successful, the chances are going to be there in abundance next year. This is from Top Geezer, who says, we are making progress across all areas of the club. Believe in the process. We can't run before we learn to walk again. Mistakes will be made, but we have to start to build a good foundation. Look, I said it earlier on in the video, I've been very scathing of certain areas of Manchester United in the last couple of years. But the one thing I've always pushed and remained on is that I was going to give the new ownership and the new people running the club, the Baradas, the Wilcocks, time. I was going to give them 2 to 3 years before I made a conclusion. I, like every Man United fan, have emotional moments where I've lost faith. I can't understand what they're doing. I'm so annoyed. I'm so angry. And normally that's after a bad defeat. Grimsby would be a standout example. But that all being said, by and large, in these circumstances, I keep my feet on the ground, and I've said it for a long time, and it's boring to a lot of people because they see keeping your feet on the ground as sitting on the fence. I don't see it as sitting on the fence. I just see it as it's a full stance, which is I'm going to criticize bad things, praise good things, but I'm waiting before I make a conclusion. It's just how I am as a person. And, you know, if this unbeaten run continues for a few more games and we win a few more matches, and I think we will this weekend, I think we will beat, in this round of games, I think we beat Everton. And I think we beat them well. I think we win 3-0, 3-1, somewhere along those lines. I think it's going to be a very good weekend indeed. Suddenly then you're 6 games unbeaten. And I don't know the last time we went 6 games unbeaten. I'm actually going to search it now. When did we last go 6 games unbeaten in the Premier League? Does anyone know? Somebody might have done the research in the comment section below. But if you do know, let me know. But I don't know the last time Man United went 6 games unbeaten in the Premier League. When did United last go 6 games, not 1-5 in a row, just 6 games unbeaten? I don't know if anyone knows. Somebody might know, somebody might not. Let's have a little look and see if... I'm just going to get... one sec, most recent... All right, let's see what that comes back with when that searches it. But as I say, so I feel like I'll even if we do go 6 games unbeaten, 4 wins out of 6, I'll keep my feet on the ground. We beat Palace, I'm going to keep my feet on the ground. In terms of, do I really think we've turned a corner? My reason for that is I believe our problems at this club were so deep rooted. I thought the problems at this club were so much on a board level, a cultural level, that no matter who we signed in our squad, no matter who our manager was, I thought they were destined to foul until those areas were fixed. And those things take a long time to fix. And the proof's in that pudding. But am I starting to now see maybe some method to the early madness? Are we now starting to see the green shoots of improvement? Is it that they were actually building solid foundations, so we didn't see new manager bounces, we couldn't see the wood for the trees, with better squads being built, better cultures being built, better player attitudes being instilled, financial situations being fixed through methods that people didn't like? But are we now starting to see the fruits of that labour. Because one thing I do find interesting is there's less and less moaning about redundancies and ticket prices as we go more and more games unbeaten, which tells me people care less about that when you're winning, which means it was never the paramount thought of people. It was more, just make us win, please. Because essentially, this is my general view of football fans. Like it or loathe it, that's up to you. If your football team's winning, you don't really care how you're treated, by and large. Some people really do, but most people don't complain. It's like with the Glazer out movement. Yes, when the Glazers first came in, I was living in Manchester, the protests were massive. There were some protests and movements and green and gold scarves during Fergie's time, but nothing like we've seen in the last 10 years. Equally, the Glazer out movement always died down when the Glazers spent loads of money in the summer. So you appease people. And again, and if those teams went on to win the league title, there'd be less moaning about it. Doesn't mean we don't care, but it always appeases things on a higher level. But from my point of view and perspective, I think we win this weekend. Are we moving in the right direction? Still remains to be seen for me. I've seen some areas of improvement, but that doesn't mean we're moving in the right direction. I'm very, very cautious to make those claims as of right now. Let's have a little look here. By the way, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen this Monday? I'd love to get your opinions on this. What do you think is happening this Monday? Honestly, hand on heart, how's it going to go? Break the game down for me. What is your full prediction on that? I can't wait to read them. Can't wait to read them in the comments section. Feb 24. I know February 2024 is where we won 4 games on the bounce. I know we did that in that period. That might be when we went the last time we went 6 games unbeaten as well. Could be in that time. But let's have a little look. We'll find out in a minute. Let's have a look at some more of your comments here. Bailey thinks 4-1 United. I'd love that. I'd love 4-0 more. I also feel that one thing this United team, again, we talk about progression, and the team being confident is one thing. But I feel for Man United, winning a game well and big. When was the last time a Premier League game where we scored 4 goals? Obviously, we scored 4 against Brighton but conceded 2. Like, when was the last time we put goals like that past the team? It was probably Everton last season, right? In the Premier League, I'm talking. I'm going back through last year. We barely scored more than 2 goals in a game last season. A few frees. But yeah, it was 4-0 against Everton very early on in Amorim's time. We beat them 4-0 last time. When was the last time we did that? I'm going back now trying to find another time where we scored 4 goals or more in the Prem. How far back am I having to go to find this, you wonder? I'm scrolling back, and that's Palace beating up. We scored 4 against Sheffield United, but we conceded 2. So I'm looking at a 4-0 game prior to that Everton one. We scored 4 against Wolves, but conceded 3. When was the previous 4-0 before that? It's crazy, actually. When you start having to scroll back that far and you can't find one. United were doing that on the regs back in the day. At least once a year you were doing it. No, more than that, twice a year. I'm back to I've gone so far back you can't even find it. It's years. I'd love a result like that. I really would. Terry, 2 months ago, and ever since, I have been telling me watching group, we will finish in the top 5 by the end of December. They won't be the real test. It will be the end of March when we really find out. No, I agree completely. But Man United, a lot of Man United fans are just overly emotional. Overly emotional. I've seen, in the last couple of days, I've seen someone go from, in the last month or 2, I've seen someone go from, we might get relegated. If we do really well this season, we'll finish between 10th and 15th, to, if Šeško had actually turned up and balled out, we might be able to win the league. So it goes from the sublime to the ridiculous. And I just look at that and go, that's purely emotions talking and no logic. And I get in games and just after games we're emotional. But by and large, come on now. Yes, Everton are better now. Everton are a tough team as well, by the way. Everton are not an easy team. Everton is not a bad team. It will not be 4-1. Oh, listen, I think we're going to win 3-0 or 3-1. I wouldn't go 4-1. I think we're going to score some goals. But Everton are no pushovers. But that's why I think a result like that would be so significant. If we could put 2 or 3, look, 2-0, 3-0, if we could have a game like that, what that would do for the confidence of these players, I think would be massive. And that's the element I feel sometimes we as fans are overlooking. It's that sort of, that impact of how big a win like that could be. 5 wins out of 6 at home, a clean sheet, 2 or 3 goals scored, convincing win. You go into that Palace game and you go, okay, but now we're unbeaten in our last 3 away games, 1 win against Liverpool and 2 draws. Can we go to a really hard place for us against a really good team and get a positive result? I'd probably take it. If we beat Everton that way, I'd probably take a draw at Palace. I'd love a win, but I'd probably take a draw. But what if we went there and got a win? Then suddenly that team's going, hang on, 7 games unbeaten, 5 wins out of our last 7. We'd definitely be in, I reckon if we won the next 2 games, we'd be in the top 4 position. The confidence grows. And this gets pushed back against so much by content creators, and it saddens me. Mentality is, again, sometimes maybe it's because people like me use the word mentality and it's quite broad. But confidence. What confidence can do for you is crazy. What Scott McTominay is currently doing is, one, he's been put more into his natural position, which helps. But he's just oozing confidence. So he's attempting things and trying things with an air of relaxation about him. And if you've ever played any type of sport at a good level, a golfer will tell you, he ain't tense when he's swinging that golf club. Tennis players can be in a Wimbledon final. They're not tense. They're actually quite relaxed. Most athletes, when they're performing at their best, are quite relaxed. And it's because they've got a confidence in themselves. As soon as they become a little stressed, try too hard, overtry. Like, phrases like this always bother people that don't play sports. What do you mean overtry? How can you try too hard? Well, you're a sprinter. You can overextend your stride. You might be pulling an arm back too hard because you're trying too hard, which is putting you off balance, which at the elite end of the spectrum loses you 1/1000th of a second every time you do it. So by the time you get to that finish line, you're a split second behind your opponent. Details matter. And confidence is such an important part in getting your technique right. Because I think when you're confident, when your mindset's built like a winner, but you're confident and you feel almost invincible, I think your touch gets better, your passing range. So what happens is people see your passing get better. Go, no, Terry, it's not his mentality. It's not his confidence. He's just improved his first touch. He's improved his passing. He's improved his conversion rate. But when you speak to the athletes, it's always, I found a new way to handle the pressure. I found a new way of relaxing. I found a new way of staying cool under pressure. It's always about a mentality element. It's very, very, very rarely about anything else. Very, very rarely. Oh, ChatGTP's come back and said that the most recent 6-game unbeaten run is now. It's let's do prior to this season. We're not 6 games, it's 5 games. Let's see if it can search it again and look. Maybe it's already done the research. Awful. I don't want to sit there and do it manually. Terry, would you take Bowen in January? No, not for the way we're playing. And he's right-sided. He plays on the right. Semenyo, yes, because he can cover on the left. He can cover more positions. I'm not saying he's bad, but there we go. Flow, it's called. Yeah, look, flow state is the modern-day word for it. But listen, technique's important. Good quality is important. But one of the biggest differences between an Erling Haaland and a Šeško. Yes, there's power and there's control and there's finishing. But I bet if you were able to study their brains, I guarantee you Erling Haaland in nearly all his actions is more relaxed, more calm, which shows him a bigger picture. He can see more space. You ever played sport or been under pressure and you feel like your vision does this, you can't really see around you? That's a mentality issue, not an actual vision issue. And the more you train and the more you play, I used to go through these periods in my 20s where I wouldn't play football for 2 or 3 years. And then I'd have a friend go, do you want to come and have a game? And I'd turn up and I felt like my head was down. I felt like my shoulders were hunched. And it's because I hadn't practiced. I didn't feel right. My vision was like this. I was really nervous. But then I'd get into a flow of playing once a week, training once or twice a week on top of that. And you get into a stage where suddenly my head was up. I felt like I had more time on the ball. I didn't, in reality, but I felt like I did because as the ball's coming into me, I can see where the ball's coming, but I'm also looking up. You call it scanning now, you kids. I was getting my head up. I was looking round. So I knew what was coming. So I'd touch the ball. I'd have more time to think because I knew what was coming. Where when I was tunnel vision like this, I didn't get closed down any quicker. It just felt quicker. That made me feel more under pressure. My technical ability didn't get better. Yes, training helped. Training helped my mentality in a game, my coolness in a game, which are now my footballing ability, which, by the way, is bang average Sunday league, to flourish at that level. And I think that's what we sometimes forget. But how do I know this? I competed for my country for over a decade of my life. I competed at World Championships, Europeans, French Opens, US Opens, British Opens. I competed at the highest level of my sport. And I understand what it's like to that degree. Now, what I think puts it on an even harder level is imagine doing it in front of tens of thousands of people with millions watching in the media scrutiny. I didn't have to handle any of that. So I remember how much pressure I felt sometimes as an athlete. Imagine doing that in the scrutiny that a Premier League footballer gets. The idea that mentality doesn't play, for me, I think mentality, mindset, calmness, coolness, composure, all those kind of attributes, I actually think they're more than 50% of the importance of an elite level athlete. I really, really do. Why all the talk about buying Gomez? Why not loan Gallagher? No commitment, even with an obligation, as we have seen with Sancho. Well, listen, I understand that. But that's about them giving us that opportunity and chance. If Atleti say no to that, and if Atleti turn around and say, no, we want a guarantee you've got to buy him, or you've got to buy him no loan, then nothing can be done. But again, to someone's point earlier, if someone said, listen, we can't get any of our main targets in January, central midfield, but we can just loan Gallagher, yeah, I'd do it. I'd do that over buying someone we didn't think was good enough. Absolutely. Let's have a look here. Casemiro literally at the flow thing now. He's lost his legs, but he's calm and controlled his mind and can come out the best midfielder. But what also helps him, again, is the way the system has been adapted. So we've got centre-back stepping more regularly into midfield, and Cunha on that side is dropping into the midfield more. So he's not as isolated, which is covering up, by and large, for his lack of legs. Where Man United will improve, though, is bringing somebody in like an Anderson, who's got the legs, but also gets the support from the centre-back and Cunha dropping in deep, who has a better passing range, better pass completion, better at breaking lines, better at carrying the ball. Then you just suddenly start to improve on all levels. And that's why it's important for me, and I've said it all along, is you instill the system even without the right players, because then when you add somebody new, you're just bettering what you've already got. Rather than let's play to the player's strengths, which may be the complete opposite style of play to your manager, until you've built the squad, then you start to implement it. And then from day one, you're almost at the start of that process again. So I wouldn't do that personally. Lou here says, we definitely don't want to buy someone for the sake of it. Totally agree, Lou. You're absolutely spot on when you say that. Damn, never knew he played. No, I didn't play football. I used to do kickboxing and karate for the youth. It was Team GB. It became Team England, mainly because the Scots and the Welsh couldn't get into the British squad. So they decided to split us off into countries instead. Rory's back with us here with another super chat, and he says, game 21 to 25, Jan and Feb 2024, drew with Spurs and 4 wins, all Premier League. Unsure why I can't type the club's name. Yeah, that's weird that doesn't work. Excuse me. But yeah, when was the last time we went 6 games unbeaten? That's 5 games. When was the last time we went 6 games unbeaten? I'm intrigued by that number. It shouldn't take one of you by now. I've got AI on 2 different websites trying to search for it for me. One of you probably could have just gone and looked, and it would have been a little bit quicker, right? In fact, I think I've got some screenshots on my phone on winning streaks. The last time we won like 5-6 on the bounce is a good few years ago, but there we go. Thank you, Samantha. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. Guys, don't be fooled with Casemiro's form. He has only improved slightly because of the World Cup. Ruben has had a mollycoddle him with the formation. No, but Ruben hasn't had to mollycoddle him. The formation's doing what it's always meant to do. Research Ruben's what Ruben's centre-backs and 10s do is what they're doing now. They just weren't doing it properly. I agree. I don't think it's because it's the World Cup year either. I think that support in the middle is helping Casemiro. If we suddenly don't have someone step into that position and pack the midfield, he'll get exposed, but most two-man midfields do. But his system is always, ever before. And by the way, next year, it'll be the same. He won't just leave our midfielders isolated. Sometimes you are going to be isolated because your 10's going to get forward. Your fullback's going to get forward and your centre-back's going to step out to a wider area. You can't never be exposed if you want to be an attacking forward team. But there we go. So that was February 2024. So we're not far away from 2 years. The better part of 2 years since we went 6 games unbeaten. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. Yo, my man Terry, how you doing? Yeah, I'm good, my friend. I'm good. Thank you very much for asking. Terry, in Portugal, 9-1 win over Armenia. Bruno played in Mbumo's right attacking midfield position. Was it right attacking midfield or is it the 10? I thought it was the 10. But yeah, look, he's an attacking midfield player. He's the best in the world for me in that position. And I know why he's not playing in that role for us, because the manager doesn't trust the rest of the midfield. But that's about giving us a midfield, giving the manager a midfield that he trusts. And that's my view. Look, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in again. These 4 nights have actually flown by, but it's been an absolute pleasure on every single level to sit here and talk Manchester United with you fine people. As ever, the United Stand, 10 o'clock, 2 p.m., 8 p.m. tomorrow. It's back. Please like before you leave. Please share this across all your social media platforms. But until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you.